Yeah. Here, he played card the other day. Black, acceptable. Back ready to win. Got the library all day. Sitting off on the door right there. Nice to be. Yeah.
Don't blame the library.
Yeah, go ahead and say, hey, it's already on.
That's what I mean.
So is there all?
Knocked on my door. Super totally good. It's not bad, it's like a little gang with like chrome and stuff. You got it back.
Yes.
Last week.
Oh, last week. I was gonna say yesterday. We were.
That's a quick feedback.
You know, Doug almost backed into something with the F-150 because his Dodge shifting the gear was this. His Dodge Ram, you took the Dodge. Yeah, and in the F-150.
I think we're getting. Also, if you don't clear off your picture, you have to clear it off with the snow, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't work.
It just beep no matter what, yeah.
Yes.
I guess I couldn't include the snow because they wouldn't have parked there.
That's wow. That's what you're at.
Is there any reason the ARPA couldn't have been more that lot that you're talking about?
Well, yeah.
I don't think so, but the county's opinion was it had to be the whole ferry road, that's why we asked that if it could just amend that application.
Yeah. So it's too late.
And then it said, no.
So that's what it was. It was too late to, alright. So that's all I should really think of.
No.
Different happens, so good.
But you guys already done it.
Oh, no, I'm just good. But I don't know why you kept talking about it. I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, why is this? How was it upset?
There's
I don't know why ours is. None of the others. Yeah, and then. Right.
Calling to order, please rise if you are able and join us for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. All right, approval of treasurer's warrants, payroll warrants for November 21st, 2025, and November 28th, 2025, open for motion.
I make a motion to approve the payroll warrants of November 21st and November 28th, 2025.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Accounts payable warrants for November 25th, 2025 and December 2nd, 2025, open for motion.
I make a motion to approve the accounts payable warrants of November 25 and December 2, 2025.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all
Okay.
those in favor?
That was an opinion.
Motion passes 5-0. Approval of the minutes for November 18th, 2025, open for motion.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of November 18, 2025.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, any questions, edits? Didn't see any. Okay. All those in favor? Motion passes 5-0.
I'm sorry, I don't know why he's doing that. He's never done that before.
All right, committee resignations and appointments. First is the resignation of Herb Deck from the airport committee, open for motion.
I make a motion to accept the resignation of Eric Deck from the airport committee with our thanks for his many contributions and years of service to the airport and the airport committee.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Appointment of Scott Clement to the airport committee, open for motion.
I make a motion to appoint Scott Clement to the airport committee.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, any questions, discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Public comment, is there anyone from public who wishes to speak on something not on the agenda? We'll go to the room first, and then if there's anyone online, we'll, call on you after that. Check. Come on up. And as a reminder, please state your name so we can have it on the recording and for Jackie who's doing notes. And you have up to 5 minutes.
Won't take 5 minutes. So, good evening. I usually don't have anything prepared. I'm usually shooting from the hip, but tonight I prepared. Good evening. I'm Chet Grover. I'm the president of the Wisconsin Snowgoers. This is Tim. He's our secretary for the Snowmobile Club. Every year, the Wisconsin Snowgoers send out nearly 100 Christmas cards to thank our landowners, business members for their generosity and support they provide towards our mission to maintain and operate a safe trail system that very few people know stretches 30 miles from one end of this town to the other. A number of years ago, we started a tradition to recognize a couple of landowners each year by presenting a little something extra to show a sincere appreciation. In the past, we have recognized folks like Norm Sherman, Sean Rafter, Bob Blagden, Dan Sortwell, just happens to be here by chance, to name a few. Okay, this year, Tim and I are here to present the select board as representatives of the townspeople, people of Wiscasset, this wreath and a Maine Snowmobile Association calendar for your continued support of our club. So maybe, I don't know where you could put it, but it's a little thank you and appreciation because our trails do stretch across many parts of town-owned property and whatnot. So thank you. Thank you to the people of Wiscasset. Okay, a little high. It'll be a little bit high. I don't know where you can put this, but this is our tradition. Typically, we're presenting this to somebody personally at their doorstep. So there it is.
Sure, we can find a place. Thank you.
Send it down. Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Jim?
Dana Babcock, president of Wiscasset. One of the things that I became aware of while we were working on the petition for the wastewater treatment plant is that there's a large number of people in Wiscasset who own property but don't live here year round. This is their second home, but they do pay property taxes as they own property in this town. So I was wondering, I'm aware that other areas of the state have local ordinances that allow people who own property and pay property taxes to vote on local issues within that area. As it is taxpayer money that's going to some of the issues that we vote on. So I don't know what that would look like, or if that's something that we would like to consider, but I did just want to bring that up as an area of thought, if that's something we would like to put on an upcoming vote to allow people who pay taxes in the town of Wiscasset to vote only on local issues, not statewide, or not necessarily statewide, but not federal issues, as their primary residence is in another state where they're voting on those issues. That's all.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room? Anyone online? Don't think so. Just the one, okay. All right.
Avon.
Sorry. Okay. All right, we will move on. Down to new business, discussion regarding a request for guidance from the planning board in defining a time frame for the term recent in regard to a boundary survey required in Article 8, site plan review, section, et cetera, et cetera. So I just wanted to start off by saying that after reading through everything and particularly the examples from the other towns, it seems like we are the only ones that have the word recent or any kind of determination on actual time for the survey. So it would seem to me that it would make a lot of sense to just take out the word recent and match it up with what's both. I think Booth Bay and Damascata had exactly what the state site plan ordinance reflected. So, Aaron, I haven't read this yet, but I think you've got part of it. The boundary survey accurately depicting parcel boundaries, all easements and ownership abutting parcels. And then there was another sentence, and I'm sorry, my computer's not booting. That said. Yeah, sorry. That there's discretion of the planning board. I don't know where it is in here. So both Booth Bay and just Damascata have, in addition to what I just read, the planning board may waive this requirement of a boundary survey when sufficient information is available to establish on the ground all property boundaries. So overall, I would, obviously we can discuss, but my recommendation would be, we recommend that that's what the planning board follow for now. And then, as Dennis mentioned in his memo, I believe, direct the ordinance review committee to put this top priority so that it can be an ordinance change for the next vote.
I concur with everything you just said.
Okay. Any other select board, and then we'll go. Okay, yeah, sorry, Aaron, did I see your hand first?
Yeah, flashing key was first, but.
Okay.
I, just put a little memo up, I spoke to the town attorney, a couple of days ago, after the meeting that we would have had last week. Anyways, about this issue, and I just wanted to point out to you a couple of things, I'm not gonna go over the whole thing, we know that 6 months. Restriction is too rigid, right? So we know that. There's a backlog of surveyors. Recent is an issue. One of the things I do want to let you know, though, the planning board cannot define what constitute recent for the survey requirement. And I think that's, they wanted to create a policy. And I want to point out that they can't, they
The
can't.
attorney said that?
Yes, and she said, section 4.43 only authorizes procedural rules while interpreting recent. But is a substantive matter. So she's basically saying that would have to be an ordinance change.
Okay.
So I just want, they can't do what they want, what they're proposing to do.
Sure.
And then she also suggested some other language in here. And then, we heard a lot about liability. And you know, I was thinking about that after that meeting, the land board meeting. And in my past, you know, one of the things towns don't get involved in is land disputes between neighbors. And it just rattled me a little bit. And so I started thinking about it and I spoke to the attorney about it. And really the applicant bears responsibility for accurate submissions. It is not our responsibility to verify those facts. And, but regardless of that, so if we act on a submission that's inaccurate, it's not our fault. There's no liability in the town. The applicant could be liable because they submitted that information. So somebody would stand in, like a neighbor could file suit against them. In terms of liability, the town is protected, all municipalities are, in the state of Maine, protected by the Maine Tort Claims Act. And so I just wanted to point that out to you, and I'll just go sit down, but I think those are some new things that I discovered, and I want you to know about that. Thanks.
Thank you. Ed?
As you're aware, at the public comment at the last meeting, I was, my experience with the planning board was not pleasant, let me put it that way. I provided them with a 2009 survey, which was unacceptable. 15 years, to me, that was recent. Information provided, that I provided, that came from the Lincoln County Registry of Deeds was also unacceptable. The Registry of Deeds is the official record for property here in the state, in our county. That registry shows the boundaries on my lot as originally established when it was first formed back in the 80s. Any changes to that deed is recorded in the county, and I was especially upset that that was unacceptable to the board. I couldn't believe that. The Lincoln County Registry of Deeds offers a fraud alert system that's available to everybody, so that if anyone processes any legal documents that would affect your deed, you can get an alert. It's free. Everybody should sign up for it. Now, at a recent planning meeting, and I think this was the last planning board meeting, it was stated that a survey is required for a bank mortgage. Not correct. I spoke with the First National Loan Officer, they made rural, is it required by the bank to have a mortgage? The answer was no. As part of the appraisal, create a mortgage. What was it called? It was a mortgage inspection sketch. That's all they based their mortgage on, plus a real appraisal of the property. Also, Freddie Mac, Federal Loan Agency, does not require a boundary survey. I don't know why we do. I do understand that you need some basis for saying you comply with zoning restrictions and setbacks. I disagree completely with the recent requirement. I don't know what the rationale was for 6 months. Don't understand it. It was never mentioned. The problem I have is that if we have a requirement in an ordinance, like a survey requirement, where does the planning board get the authority to waive it? They were imposing that requirement on me, but they waived it for Chewonki. They waived it for Chase small boat craft. I don't know how they do that. I don't know what their rationale is, but it's disturbing that these requirements are not applied equally to everybody involved. If the planning board does have authority to waive requirements, are they really requirements or are they just suggestions? I don't understand how they can operate and waive and not waive depending on, I don't know why, because I don't know what the rationale is. From my recent contact with the code enforcement officer and the planning board, I don't believe that our ordinances adequately define the functions of both of those organizations. It appears at this last planning board meeting that the planning board expects more of the code enforcement officer than I believe is really a part of his function. And there appears to be an unreasonable relationship between those two groups. The part of the problem that I have here is that one of our discussions, I will give you another example of where applying or not applying a requirement really affects individuals. I added a barn to my property a while back. The town has a height requirement of 35 feet. At the time, the code enforcement officer actually came out to measure it to make sure I met that requirement. I knew it was a requirement, I met it, they came out and measured it. Didn't apply for some reason to Heidelberg Village. They exceeded the 35 limit. I'm not sure how they got a waiver, what the basis is for that waiver. I don't object to it, but if we're gonna have a requirement, we ought to be enforcing these requirements or deleting them. Finally, I guess the one thing that I might add from a Wisconsin's perspective is one of the real topics that are being discussed now is affordability. So if you look at the fact that I just want to add a master bedroom suite to my property, they'll provide more tax revenue to the town. Here's what it cost me. It cost me $25 for a site application fee to sit before the board. I had to provide 10 copies of a package to the board, including my boundary survey. It cost me over $50. When it finally got approved by the code enforcement officer, I had to pay a building permit. It cost me $1,000. And if I have to do another survey, or if someone has to do another survey, it's typically $3,000 to $5,000. So if you build a house here in Wisconsin for say 1,500 square feet at an average square foot price of $200 per square foot, which is kind of low actually, that's a $300,000 bill. And Wisconsin adds another $4,000 to the bill. We're adding at least 2% to the cost of the property. We're a part of the affordability problem. I think the planning board currently functions as an obstacle to get things done. And I really believe they should be functioning more as a help to comply with our rules and regulations. Thank you.
Thank you. That.
I'm not gonna sit down with this part where I shoot from the hip. I'm not prepared. I also have an issue with this, and I think we're going to arrive at a very good solution. So I think, I thank the people that are involved for bringing this and making the board aware, planning board aware, and other people. I'm a little concerned that how many people have been turned away from doing a project when there's gonna take this much effort to go forward with a project, and it didn't happen. Up until now, we don't know. We have no way of knowing it. I hold in my hand an application, building permit application that is through the Maine State, Maine Land Use Planning Commission, LUPC, okay? This is in northern Maine. A lot of this can be solved, and I'm gonna go back to what Aaron said, because it's right here in black and white, and it doesn't apply to our application here in town. The applicant and the agent's signatures, okay? I'll read it, it's brief. I have personally examined and familiar with the information submitted in this application, and to the best of my knowledge is true, accurate, and complete. I am aware that there may be significant penalties for submitting false information. Okay? I understand that the applicant is responsible for complying with all conditions of any permits issued by the LUPC. In this case, I attest that my lot has been evaluated and is not a result of an illegal subdivision. If you followed along, that's simple, concise, to the point. And what we heard the other night with the planning board is they were very concerned about liability. And they were gonna make landowners and potential people building projects here jump through hoops to make sure that they weren't liable. It's not their function to make sure people are liable. It's the people that are applying for the application, okay? This verbiage, simple to add to our building permits, which I know for a fact, because I've pulled many of them here, is not on there. This fixes a lot of the issues that we're talking about, and we can actually move forward, okay? I will elaborate just a little bit more in this application. This is with the LUPC. Mainland, what did I say, Main, you know what I'm saying, blur, okay? This is what they require for a boundary survey for their application. That's my hand sketching, okay? It's very simple, so I don't know why we are asking the residents of our town to jump through large hoops. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the one I'm suggesting is the model site plan review ordinance, so it's on the end of the list of the examples from surrounding towns. So, yeah, so again, it doesn't have a time on it. It can be a survey from 15 years ago. Okay, so we need.
Right, so. I mean, I own my property for 50 years. And.
Right, but a survey exists at some point.
Right,
Doesn't have to.
Most people have one at some point in time.
May I address that? Because I think there's some confusion too with a boundary survey. If a boundary survey was a legal document, we'd have to have a lawyer draft that document. The only legal document when you go to a mortgage, get a mortgage, is a deed and a title search, okay? Both of those documents have to be prepared by a lawyer. Any land surveyor is, I contest that it's not a legal document. I do not think that it has to be. I mean, Mr. Olson said to us a number of times, it's a Polaroid picture in time. All that he is putting on his paper are coordinates and points that the deed calls out.
Okay.
So I don't know as though that's necessarily true, that a boundary survey, the pretty picture does not have to exist. I believe a deed and a title search, clean title does.
Yeah, I guess I'm coming from the point of, I think you should have to have something. Boundaries are, which is in a deed, usually.
yeah,
If not a map or an official boundary survey, whatever it is, I think you should still have to prove that those are your boundaries.
Yeah.
But it's fine if it's from when you bought your house, as long as you haven't changed it since then. I guess that's where I'm coming from.
yeah, we will.
Yeah, a lot of ordinances that I've seen are, they tell you to provide legal rights to the property, so sometimes it's not even a boundary survey, it's just the deed information.
Yeah, I don't see why that's not enough. I mean, if you look at my deed for my property, again, I've had it 50 years and it's, south from this point to, west to the next point, and it goes all the way around the property lines. It's.
So then isn't what we have crossing out the word recent, what we're all talking about?
I think so.
The bearings and distances of all property lines of the property to be developed, and the source of this information prepared by a professional land surveyor as a recent survey. So if you take out the prepared by a professional land surveyor as a recent boundaries, right?
Exactly,
Yes.
that's all you need to do, get rid of that. People have their deed, there it is.
Well, Chet's brought up additional questions on the thing also.
Well, it sounds like it wouldn't be a bad idea to look into possible language about the checkbox saying I attest to this if we don't already have that in a site plan application, which, do we not? Is that not on the end of it? Okay. But to Aaron.
Copy of it here.
I do not have a copy of an application from town, I do not have it.
But to Aaron's point, he's already checked with the lawyer that it isn't our liability, correct? That's what you said?
That's right.
So.
And if
It's just incorrect that it would fall on the planning board of the town. It is up to the applicant,
I mean, on the same
if they lie
token,
on it.
maybe look into keeping a survey for major site developments and subdivisions, because those rely on boundaries, so.
Remember, we have a subdivision ordinance that addresses subdivision, so.
Okay, so this would be for major developments then.
Aaron,
Can we come back with a recommendation, like, that's a little bit, like. Thought out and spoke to an attorney and give you actual language,
well, the ordinance review committee should do that.
or the town staff, but, yeah.
Yeah,
The ORC doesn't have access to attorneys, and I'm against giving too many people access to the attorney because they want to bill up, so. Any of that stuff should come through my office,
I think.
and town staff can work on some of that.
I'd like to see a review of the process.
I'd like to see a more comprehensive review of the whole ordinance. Because I think, and I agree, and I think Aaron agrees, it's very cumbersome and it does not promote economic development in this town. It's just more.
Surveys are needed though, like, I think the issue isn't, I'm not against the survey, okay? But there's a time and place, yeah? People need, I think, I don't know, I wanna throw. People need to use discretion of the planning board members, and they have to have, some common sense, you know. And I think that if we make it too rigid, like the attorney said, you know, putting 6 months is too rigid. Well, if we start spelling out when a survey isn't allowed, I think that could be a problem. Also, it would work against us in an economic development, business friendly environment. I agree that like a major site, a major development would need a survey. But I think, you know, that's why we need to think about this a little bit. The language is correct.
yes, and the ORC needs to get going on it.
We could,
Cause we were both told they weren't meeting and they had a long list of priorities, so I'm not sure.
I think that we should make, as we, on our agenda, at the board's discretion, make a motion to have the ORC begin work on this with our recommendation of deleting after the comma prepared by a professional, as you discussed a moment ago. And that is our goal.
Cause I don't disagree that it needs an overhaul, but I also don't wanna get to whatever April deadline we have for an election, and we don't even have this small change that would make a meaningful difference for a lot of people.
maybe if you suggest that. That as part of this motion. That this is a priority for the select board and that you expect some sort of. Proposed amendment for a early spring town meeting, special town meeting like March.
Well, I wanna be on record, I'm not okay with a special town meeting for this. I want it on the next ballot. In general, I'm never cool with a special town meeting. I just think it's, yeah, any,
So then
but-
we say that we expect to have a recommendation by the ORC by this, by April, whatever.
Yeah, remember, we have to have our ballot stuff done by the end of March. And I wouldn't give them a deadline till the end of March because you want time to discuss it and.
right,
And banter it back and forth, so I would say they need to have something to you by February 1st.
do other towns have other sections? I know this is only a tiny piece where they address larger developments.
Yeah.
Do they break it out?
I mean, so a lot of the towns that, I made it simple, like I didn't
Yeah.
wanna
I
have
know.
a fucking thing. The bigger communities like Rocklands, the Baths, you know, the Brunswick, they have a tiered system where the planner. And I think I mentioned in my memo, that to make that as a recommendation, not the one I just dropped in front of you today,
Yeah.
but.
Yeah.
You know, a smaller development, site plan review type project would be we would go through the planner's office, but in the court office. And then the other one, and that's where I think that would help control some of this. And then the bigger projects would go for the planning board, like
Sure.
Bunker Chevrolet or, you know, something going on at Ferry Road or something like that.
Well, what is it, 2,400 square feet anyway, doesn't go to the, under that? Doesn't typically go to the planning board
It's like,
anyway?
yeah, it's like 2,000.
2,000,
They have discretion, that's the thing, is that every applicant has to go to the planning board, then the planning board can decide whether or not they want it, if that's what it's called, a de minimis application.
Yeah.
And whether or not that the applicant meets the criteria to have the planner make do the review rather than the planning board. And what I'm suggesting is maybe we alter the ordinance that rather than have it go to the planning board on these small applications, have it get bunted to the planner, that the planner, anytime an application meets the criteria, you know, one of those small de minimis applications, that the planner makes that, it's a staff person makes that, and that's common.
why is that not there?
No, I'm just trying to remember what the ordinance says, because I think it already says that.
I thought it didn't.
That it can go to the planner, and the planner can then kick it to the planning board
Yeah,
if he didn't feel he could do it. I don't remember the language off the top of my head, but.
In other words, what you're saying is. I've dealt with in the past is. If they come to the planner and there's nothing wrong with it, he stamps it and you do it. They don't go to the planning board or anything.
yeah, under a certain size.
I think he's going to get the ordinance,
Yeah.
because I don't remember off the top of my head.
So, what if we did this, I don't wanna give your staff directions, but. If we ask Aaron to come to next week's meeting, since we have a next week's meeting. With some examples that include the larger developments, so that we could then give more direction to the ordinance review committee.
Did you catch that, Aaron?
Yeah.
Throwing him under the bus there.
That's fine.
I'm just giving you more work. Ed?
That was part of my problem. According to the zoning ordinance. My building application for that addition, 1,700 square feet, should have gone to the code enforcement officer for review and approval.
So
The
why
ordinances are not clear. According to the ordinances, the board is required for business, commercial, institutional, and multi-unit family homes. Typically non-residential except for multi-unit stuff. The rest of the stuff should be handled by the code enforcement officer.
Actually,
That part needs to be cleared up and clarified.
Aaron, I think that is, did you?
Yeah,
Because the
yeah.
distinction is
I was
the
wrong.
commercial and. I
I-
don't think
I-
residential
we-
is even mentioned in there.
No, it's not residential, but, yeah, I'm sorry. Expansion of the. Structure, being accessory buildings with the large ones.
So would that make sense to folks if we could
Yeah,
get
It
a
does.
bit more info for next week and then?
And I still just wanna be cautious that we don't begin revising the entire ordinance between now and February 1st. If we still intend to fix this immediate problem,
Yeah,
because I don't think that there's time between.
No.
Right, exactly.
yeah,
And so every time we look at another clause, we're gonna find a problem. And
but I think if we could see the example in
Yes.
terms of surveys specifically.
yes, survey specifically is great.
If we can address that issue by the next election, that would make a big difference.
well, I think we could have a red line document for the next town meeting. You know, for more wholesale set of changes.
I've seen how slow it
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
I would love to be that hopeful, but I think for the moment, I think we should just bite off the survey piece.
All right.
Should be changed. We can't do it all at once.
And I think we'll need to have more discussions at this level too, to then go to the ordinance review committee, who will then need to have more hearings and.
So, 130, sorry. Dennis, but you're probably looking at the ordinance.
Uh,
Under site inspection modification waivers or submission requirements and performance standards. B, diminished projects, the planning board may modify or waive any of the application requirements or performance standards. I think that's what I was. I think there's,
I think there's also another one, is it under the building laws that also talk about the planner? But it's a different square footage.
yeah, well, it's actually under. It's in the site plan review, if you look under 2. It breaks out, it says the site plan review and approval by the planning board shall be required for, it has a list of, things that the items that would require planning board approval. And that has items that are 2,500 square feet or more. I need to look at this more closely, but I know, what I would say is that I know I've read that there's many towns, bigger towns. This is growing pains, Wisconsin, but, they have a tiered system, so there's a tiered review
Yeah.
process for smaller projects. It just goes right to the planner.
Right.
Okay. So would you have time to
I can do,
do that between,
so you want me just to get a list of,
to pull at least a few other towns, just like you did here, but what they have for the rest of the survey requirements in terms of if they have it for commercial or just whatever else.
when you look at some of the ordinances, because when I was doing this, there was some of the using the requirements. I mean, I can come up with something for you, but what I would say is that the survey requirements are. There's the ordinance, they're not just like,
Right.
it's not just like one thing. I'll give you some.
Does that work for folks? And then we'll revisit next week since it's only a week away and then decide what guidance we'll give to planning board, and they won't meet between now and then, so. Good. Okay, thank you, Aaron.
Thank you.
Petition regarding repealing the November 5th, 2025 vote to relocate the wastewater treatment plant. So I know Dennis, mentioned 2 options in his manager's report. Given that we're a little short on the signatures, but I believe there's a 3rd option, given what we can do as a board, and I, believe Bill has a suggestion.
No, first thing is that I don't think it's November 5th, 2025 vote.
It was 24, yes,
Yeah.
that was a mistake. I corrected it online, but your stuff had already been.
I guess it's not me. Okay, the citizen petition regarding the relocation of the wastewater treatment plant did not satisfy the statutory requirements for ballot inclusion. As a fact, the required number of signatures. However, the select board retains the authority to place the proposed language on the ballot independently. Therefore, I move that this item be included in the June 2026 ballot. I'd like to proceed beyond that. Because this is gonna go somewhere, this plant, it's either gonna stay where it is, it's gonna be where we're talking about now. If that gets passed and it doesn't go there, it's gotta go somewhere else. So I know Dennis does a job on this, but I suggest that to ensure the taxpayers are aware of the facts and the costs involved, we should make them aware of the following. Prior to the ballot set date, the town should clarify the select board has been consistently preferred updating and securing the existing plant rather than relocating it. The recommendation includes protecting the facility from future river rises by constructing a cement wall along the riverside and installing movable barriers on the land side. Efforts continue to obtain approval for returning the original plan of upgrading the current site to comply with the new requirements. The town initially received this solution as a proposal. However, subsequent decisions by federal and state authorities required relocation off the island. The current Department of Public Works DPW site was chosen for its cost efficiency due to the proximity to the system. Relocating further away would result in additional expenses for Wisconsin taxpayers, estimated at a minimum of $1 million per mile, exclusive of necessary pump stations. It's important to clarify that certain information presented at a previous select board meeting was inadvertently misleading. Specifically, statistics referenced from a Greek water treatment facility suggested risks of illness caused by dust and exhaust emissions. However, the Greek plant differs substantially from the proposed facility in Wisconsin. The Greek plant utilizes older processing methods, including outdoor operations such as settling tanks and aerial sanitations, which are still used somewhere nationwide. In contrast, the proposed Wisconsin plant will resemble a modern facility located on a main street in Oxford, Maine. This updated plant is fully enclosed, computer-operated, chemical-free, and designed to prevent the emission of odor and dust both inside and outside the building. The proposed plan has been reviewed by the town manager, the selectman, myself, and the plant manager. Without signage, the facility's unobstructed design ensures it blends seamlessly into its surroundings. With that said, I again move that we include the language on the petition to come to the voters in June.
Anybody have a second to that before we discuss?
Second.
Okay, board first and then we'll go to the public.
Who did the second?
I did.
Please. Yeah, I was gonna suggest that anyway, because I feel like I don't think they should have to go out and get 6 more signatures. I think that is in the spirit of the petition, so. I don't think there's any reason to make it harder. Anyone from the public who'd like to speak? Yes.
Hi, everybody. I'm here speaking in my personal capacity. I'm Cassie Rose as resident, but resident earth scientist. And I've worked really closely with many of you talking about the impacts of sea level rise and flooding. And I just wanted to share a few thoughts and one suggestion for the really important discussion about the future of the wastewater treatment plant. So it's not news to any of us that we have one of the top most at-risk wastewater treatment plants in the state. We know it's in the current floodplain. And we've known for a really long time that more frequent flooding and long-term sea level rise are huge risks for our wastewater treatment plant. The 2 January storms last year were a wake-up call to show us exactly what the risks are, and that our plant only escaped catastrophic flooding at that time due to the heroic efforts of our town staff. My understanding is that without their efforts and sandbagging, the treatment plant would have been inundated, at least partially. And so for critical infrastructure like our treatment plant, the state of Maine has suggested that towns plan for science-backed future flooding levels that are a little bit higher than we're normally used to thinking about. And those are 3 feet of additional river or sea level rise by 2070 and 8.8 feet by 2120. These are lower probability, but higher impact. And for really critical infrastructure, we have to kind of plan for those catastrophic potential scenarios. And then with even moderate future sea level rise scenarios, that means more frequent flooding of the treatment plant and the access roads within the next few decades. So I think while planning to move our town's wastewater treatment plant is really daunting and definitely expensive, I believe that the risk is too high to consider otherwise. The voters last year made a really smart science-backed decision that I urge the town to continue to support. I think one thing I found kind of missing from a lot of the discussion and the petitions is what the risks are if we don't move the treatment plant. And those risks are catastrophic to our working waterfront users, so our fishermen, wormers, clammers, and oyster farmers who would be devastated economically if we had a sewage overflow into the river due to that flooding. And if it flooded, of course, our downtown residents would lose those services as well. So I came here just to recommend that the town consider engaging in a really robust planning and public engagement process around the wastewater treatment plant to ensure that all town residents and river users are considered and heard, that we all get on the same page about what we're planning for. And that we have a conversation about the balance of long-term needs to inform the future as we go up to a potential ballot measure next year or at the end of the year. So thank you for hearing me.
Thank you. Anyone else? Kim?
Dan Babcock, once again, resident of Wiscasset. I appreciate your take on this, and I agree that at some point in time, we do need to relocate the Wiscasset wastewater treatment plant. I do not, however, agree that the residents made an educated decision when they voted on in 2024 on this, as what was evidenced by our surveying when we went around with the petition, speaking to people who largely indicated that they were not aware what they voted on was the removal or the relocation of the sewer plant. They thought it was a water plant because they were not educated about the language. So that is something, what I do agree with you on is there does need to be robust planning, because it's not just the impact to our waterfront and the rising sea level that we need to take into consideration, it's all potential pollution. And so one of the things that I did want to make clear here is that I've heard this a couple of times since our initial presentation about this Greek wastewater treatment plant that was referenced. That was just one of multiple articles that we used when we made that presentation. There were some snippets used from that, but there were multiple other plants and research articles that we referenced as well. And I don't hear those being brought up. One of them specifically stated that even the most advanced, including this one in Oxford, do emit bioaerosols into the air. So it's not just whether or not we're polluting the water, it's what are we also putting into the air. And I am not an expert, and I've never once contended that I am an expert. I did basic research, and in doing so, had questions that were of concern to me, especially since I live in very close proximity to where this new proposed treatment plant is going to go. And my hope was that when we came that day, the engineer for the firm would be able to answer those questions. He was not able to answer those questions, and that is very concerning to me, because if you are the one engineering a wastewater treatment plant, then you are the person responsible for assuring me as a resident nearby that I'm not going to be exposed to air pollution and ground pollution. And he was not able to do that. What he did was accuse me of fear mongering. And since that meeting has not, I assume, had the opportunity to, because it was brought up at that point in time that some of the articles that I had brought forward, he had not had an opportunity to review. And my hope would have been that he reviewed that and then came back to us with some assurances for how we are not going to have bioaerosols emitted into the air, and was able to read that, and that has not happened. So maybe the Greek wastewater treatment plant was not exactly like the one in Oxford, but the point that I was trying to drive home is that wastewater treatment plants in and of themselves do produce some pollution. A lot of things that we do in this country produce pollution, but we have methods that we use to monitor the pollution going into the water, right? We're obligated to do that. And Robert, I believe it is, you spoke last time about when you're monitoring the pollution, if something is off, you have to account for that to the state, right? And what you're gonna do to mitigate that. But nobody has been able to speak to how we're monitoring air pollution. Nobody knows the answer to that question. And what I want is reassurance that air pollution is being monitored, and that my home in close proximity to that is not going to have things like COVID and E. coli, which is in sewage emitted into the air, flowing downhill into my house, into the school system because that is the prevailing wind is toward the water. And that's what we're asking for. So when we want to make sure that the taxpayers are aware of the facts and the costs, I love that, and I am in 100% agreement. But I think we need somebody educated to come and speak to us about that. And I would really love the opportunity to speak to somebody like that, because I am not the expert. But if I can find this information, it seems to me the expert designing it should be able to educate me as to why I should not be afraid.
Yeah, and just picture the Greek plant, but everything. should
But,
fall
okay,
outside.
I just would like
That's just for your information.
I'd just like to remind everyone that tonight's discussion is only on whether the petition goes on the ballot. I totally agree that we have further discussions to be had and information both from experts and how townspeople feel and whatnot. I'm fully in agreement there. And when it is on the ballot, if we vote to put it on the ballot, then that'll be part of a public hearing for the ballot, so there'll be an opportunity there in addition to whatever happens with the actual movement or not movement of the plan. So I just wanna make sure we're clear there. Anyone else who would like to speak about regarding the petition and putting it on the?
I just have a question, what, if it was voted to be put on the ballot, I understood that, Ms. Maloney was talking about putting some kind of information to the voters about what, what was misinformation, what is actually happening, are there going to be facts that are, whatever, that are given to people in order to provide a good basis for them voting a certain way?
So typically, the last couple of years, Dennis has put together an information sheet for each of the elections for the different town items that explains what you're actually voting for. So it's tricky in that it should include the fact that, okay, if you, this is a revote on X thing from X date, like that would need to be put in there, I would think. And what that means if it is approved. So we'd say something like if it passes, then, or I don't know exactly how it's gonna be worded. So if people say, no, we don't want it on the town garage site, then we would probably need to put some language saying we then now need to go back to the drawing board to find somewhere else. Like people should at least know that, okay, we still then have an issue.
Right, for instance, I remember Shannon discussed the fact that the capacity of the current water treatment or sewer plant is very, like, it's low beyond, way below what it can handle.
Correct.
Information like that, I think, would be very helpful for people making a decision as well.
I feel like that may.
That's gonna be irrelevant to the question that's actually gonna be on the ballot, so we can't get too down into rabbit hole. Decision that it's trying to sway voters one way or another. Voted on last year, which basically puts us back to square one, where are we going to go? And there'll be further discussions about that, but we can't get too detailed with this. Before somebody's gonna say, you're trying to sway the vote here, and that would not be our intention. But
Chet.
To address the gentleman's concern, part of the problem that lies here is when we had the town meeting to discuss all of the details at the community center, we went forward with that. A lot of people in the audience had questions. We tried to get to some of those details. And before all the residents could speak, the gentleman rose and he moved the question. When he did that, he stopped any further discussion by the people of this town to ask any of these good questions. It moved the question, am I wrong?
You're just off on which vote that was. That was not this vote. That was, I think, a funding
that was the vote
decision.
for.
It was related,
funds.
but
It was the
not this
catalyst that
vote.
started the process, am I wrong? It was. it
No,
started
because
discussion
those matching funds, I think, if I have to remember, were for the pump if they were for the pump stations. Rob, which were they? Remind me which one it was.
One of them was to get the town to vote to put a chunk of money towards a grant, it was a matching grant.
But what was the grant? The grant was for?
The grant was for the sewer move.
And it needed a location, or it needed to be voted on in order to get the grant, because I had heard something similar, that people thought that it was just to get it on the ballot to get money, and then the location would be decided after. So they were surprised when they saw the location on the ballot in conjunction with that.
I know-
think we couldn't apply for the grant without the location on there.
Yeah.
So
That may be the
would been
case.
chosen.
But yeah, I know, feel free to keep going, but yes, it wasn't, I just wanted to clarify that it wasn't the vote that the petition is for.
Okay,
Related, but not the same.
okay. But to my point, a lot of those questions could have been asked about locations.
Sure.
And whatnot during that process, and the process was not by moving the question.
So Chet, this goes back to what Sarah said earlier about having special town meetings. If this is done by referendum, they can't do that. They can't move the question. We can have all the discussions we want prior to the vote, but when it comes time to the vote, they can't cut off, there won't be any discussion. It's all ahead of time. And that's one of the issues with open town meetings.
And I would suggest in general that if folks vote and say we don't want it in the proposed location, that we restart with a set of hearings where we get Bill Halver and perhaps others to get through all of these questions in a setting that does not allow for a conversation to be cut off because someone wants to vote on something. Cause I agree with you, Chad, that was not a good situation and there isn't anything you can do about it, it's the rules.
Well, I question whether or not that motion was handled properly to begin with, but that's neither here nor there, we're not there past it.
Cassie?
I think my comments were, I've sensed there's just a lot of confusion, a lot of research and great information went into making the recommendations from the sea level rise study on the plan. So I think bringing that information together in one place, maybe on the town website would be really helpful, and having those discussions to answer questions. And get all perspectives would be super helpful.
Yeah.
I offered this earlier to someone in the group, that we can probably set up a tour of the Oxford plant, and you can ask questions and they got better answers. Like maybe 4 people, go tour through it and talk to the people running it, and you get an answer. We spent a good part of the day up there. Yes, Aaron?
Well, maybe one way, I mean, that's a good idea, Bill, but could maybe we record it and then, post it on the website or something?
I think if they got there and were able to ask the questions as things come up, it'd be better. I offered it to someone before and they never got back to me.
I'd be happy to help put a video together. I have tiny video skills.
Yeah, I think there are a number of things that we can do, but we also need everyone's help in getting people to these meetings. Cause if we're gonna do this, we really need people, we can't get to a point again where people say, no, I still didn't know what was going on.
And I think to your point, Sarah, that does seem to be a huge struggle, whether it's this issue or any other
Anything.
issue, is getting people to actually pay attention and know what they're talking about before they show up in the voting booth. And then they're like, okay, well, that sounds right, so we'll just, there's a lot of uneducation, I feel like, that's going into the voting process. And so the challenge is, how do we actually get the real information out to people? But to your point, Bill, I also want to make sure we are getting real information out. So the recognition that the questions are not to be confrontational, therefore education. People want answers to some, so that we can make an informed decision on these things.
We did, they were very helpful. We had a lot of questions. Been a couple of years now. I forgot what most of the questions were, but we walked through the whole place. In fact, Dennis and I walked over grading where all the fluid was underneath. You can't smell anything in there.
Cassie will be in touch. All right,
Did you vote on this?
no, that's what I was just gonna say, any other comments on the petition and the motion on the floor, which is for the select board to put it, without having to get more signatures, to put it on the June town ballot. Okay, seeing none, all those in favor? Is that a?
Yeah.
Okay. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. All right. As a side note, I'm gonna throw out there, because this has come up a few times, particularly with like, parking bans and stuff for snow. You can sign up for notifications from the town, like when things are closed and all that kind of stuff. It's a new system, just go on the new town website and there's a notify me button, click on that, just make an account, and you can either have emails sent to you or text messages or both. So I just wanna, I'm gonna keep throwing that out there, because more people need to sign up because you can get information quickly. All right, moving on. C, sale of tax acquired property, 105 Sheepshead Road, map R05 lot 120, open for motion.
I make a motion to authorize the town manager to execute a purchase and sale agreement between the town of Wisconsin and Scott R. Griffin for property located at 105 Old Sheepscott Road, map R05 lot 120, for a purchase price of no less than $70,000, and to execute and deliver a municipal quitclaim deed and any other documents necessary to effect conveyance of the property in a form acceptable to the town manager and the town attorney.
Second. Been moved and seconded, any questions?
Did
Discussion?
you understand that an attorney actually wrote that motion?
Yeah. That's a lot of words.
Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Sale of tax acquired property, 467 Old Town Road, map R02 lot 017G, open for motion.
I make a motion to authorize the town manager to execute a purchase and sale agreement between the town of Wisconsin and Sean Connors for the property located at 467 Lowell Town Road, map R02, lot 017-G, for a purchase price of no less than $70,000, and to execute and deliver a municipal quitclaim deed and any other documents necessary to effect the conveyance of the property in a form acceptable to the town manager and the town attorney.
Second. Been moved and seconded, any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Acceptance of a 2026 Bureau of Highway Safety click it or ticket and sustained enforcement grant, open for motion.
I make a motion to authorize the police chief to accept a 2026 Bureau of Highway Safety click or ticket and sustained enforcement grant in the amount of $3,952.20.
Second. Been moved and seconded, any questions or discussion?
I have a question.
Yeah.
It says that there's a required matching contribution. What amount is that?
980 some,
Okay.
around $980.
Just wondering.
Any other questions? All those in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Acceptance of a 2026 Bureau of Highway Safety distracted driving enforcement grant, open for motion.
I make a motion to authorize the police chief to accept a 2026 Bureau of Highway Safety impaired driving enforcement grant in the amount of $3,952.20.
Second. Been moved and seconded, any questions or discussion? Yes.
At least it's in my town manager's report, $988.05.
Okay, great.
Well, what's been there?
And then just said. There you go.
All right, all those in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Acceptance of a 2026 Bureau of Highway Safety impaired driving enforcement grant, open for motion.
I make a motion to authorize the police chief to accept a 2026 Bureau of Highway Safety impaired driving enforcement grant in the amount of $3,952.20.
Second. Been moved and seconded, any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion passes 5-0.
That's the additional one
Oh,
that wasn't on the agenda.
okay. Now I have to figure out the language for this. All right, this is a Bureau of Highway and Safety
It's the same language.
2026.
Substitute speed.
Okay, all right, so the motion would be to authorize.
I'll get it.
Oh, okay, you got it.
I make a motion to authorize the police chief to accept a 2026 Bureau of Highway Safety speed enforcement grant in the amount of $3,952.20.
Second.
And moved and seconded, any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Acceptance of an anonymous donation of $500 for the holiday gift account, open for motion.
I make a motion to accept an anonymous donation of $500 for the holiday gift account.
Second.
Moved and seconded, any questions or discussion? Thank you to the donor, all those in favor? Motion passes 5-0. And donation of $1,000 to Toys for Tots, open for motion.
I make a motion to authorize the treasurer to expend $1,000 from the holiday gift account as a donation to Tots, Toys for Tots.
Thank you. It's funny, they spelled it wrong. Second. It's tots for tots. On the agenda.
I did this agenda, so
Oh.
Just trying to catch me out.
I'm not as good at it as Kathy is.
Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Anything you wanna add to the town manager's report? Any questions for Dennis on the town manager's report? Okay, seeing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? We are adjourned at 7:07 PM. Thank you all for coming out.